Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander's Core studio. Welcome to the show. Okay, so on today's episode, I'm going beyond the meta. You know, on EDH Rec, I see like, oh yeah, the top kinds of decks out there. You're like, okay, artifacts, life gain. Let's go to the bottom instead and talk about the most fun decks that you've never heard of at all. Let's jump into it. So first up, we've got Evoke. Yeah, you know that little text that you sometimes see on cards, like every now and then, like maybe every 15th game or something like that. Like, oh, there's a Shriekmaw. Oh, cool. All right. Yeah, let's build an entire deck around that now, though. According to EDH Rec, there are only 23 Evoke decks in total. That's right, 23 decks dedicated to this incredible mechanic. Let's jump into what it does, talk about what the deck does, and talk about what commanders to utilize with it and the support for it. Shriekmaw is a 3-2 elemental with fear, enters the battlefield, destroy target non-artifact, non-black creature, and it's got an evoke cost of just 1 and a black, compared to its actual cost of 5 mana in total. And of course, evoke means you may cast a spell for its evoke cost. If you do, it's sacrificed when it enters the battlefield. Now, basically, this is cheating things out earlier than they should be able to be cheated out because, well, it doesn't stick around, right? It enters the battlefield, it does its ETB thing, and then it goes away. It's kind of like a spell in that way, but of course, there's some really cool things that you can do with it. Now, in total, including Shriekmaw and, well, Muldrifter, perhaps the most famous evoke creature out there, there are 30 evoke creatures, and they all have the exact same type, which is elemental. So because of that, maybe some of you are ahead of the curve right now and thinking about, oh, what commander maybe we could utilize with that. We'll get to that here in a second. Anyways, yeah, Muldrifter, hey, enters battlefield, draw 2 cards. That's a nice, potentially repeatable effect that we could utilize when we have a commander like, say, Horde of Notions. That's right, this is an elemental tribal commander, but also, yeah, because all these evoke creatures are elementals, literally every single one of them, all 30 are elementals too. Yeah, we can utilize it in a really cool way with this commander. A 5/5 elemental for 5 colors, again, gives us access to every single one of those evoke creatures, obviously. Vigilance, Trample, Haste, pay 5 mana in total. Wooburg, you may play target elemental card from your graveyard that paying its mana cost. So, being able to get those elementals back out of our graveyard, again, that have those awesome ETBs, when we just put them right into our graveyard in a cheap way, yeah, that can be a great way to use and abuse them over and over and over again. And of course, you got plenty of ways to play with death triggers, getting things back, etc., etc. And there are other commanders to consider too, but just keep in mind, this one does give you the 5-color option, which is nice when it comes to this kind of like, you know, hey, yeah, evoke. Yeah, there's only so many creatures out there type of play, so you might need something that gives you access to every single one of them that you can. All the great ones, I should say. When it comes to support as well, you've got plenty of great cards in 5-color, obviously, to pick from. I mean, all of them. Reflections of Letjar is a great one to consider for this kind of a deck. And just battlefield, choose a creature type, elemental. When you cast a spell of the chosen type, copy that spell. And keep in mind, again, when you are evoking something, you are casting it. So now with that again, say with, Shriekmaw, right? We paid 2 mana, we destroyed a creature, great, good for us. But now we get to destroy 2 creatures, and we get to keep the copy as well. So the copy is going to stay in play. So it's kind of like a cheat code way to double that up and also keep, again, something in play. Yark the Desecrated, speaking of cheat codes and double things up, an elemental itself. So again, our commander can get this back out of the graveyard if we need to. 3/5 Death Touch lifelink for 5 mana in total. A permanent entering the battlefield causes a trigger to build a permanent you control to trigger. Triggers additional time. Basically, this is Panharmonicon, essentially. So, yeah, being able to double up on every single one of those evokes is amazing. Those great ETBs. Next up, Muldrotha of the Gravetide. Yet another great elemental. And we can actually utilize this during our turns and can play a land and cast a permanent spell of each permanent type from our graveyard. So being able to play those elementals back out of our graveyard can be great, especially since we can actually evoke them thanks to Muldrotha as well. On top, being able to cheat them into play with our commander as well. Warstorm Surge, yeah, we can really take advantage of something like this as well. Creature control enters, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. Being able to, again, evoke our creatures out cheaper than we should be able to. We can just start pinging things down, including our opponent's faces, with this. Or how about, Omnath? Yeah, again, yet another elemental. Again, we have some hints of kind of like elemental tribal with this as well, but yeah, the focus is going to be on evoke and utilizing that in the best way. But this one can take advantage of both. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you create a 5/5 elemental. That's lovely. On top of that, whenever it or another elemental you control dies, it deals 3 damage to any target. So basically, whenever you evoke, you also get to lightning bolt as well, which is absolutely amazing. And of course, if you got this, plus Warstorm Surge, plus Reflections Bullet Jar, plus all the things, you can have some absolutely explodey amazing plays. So again, evoke. Right now, according to EDH Rec, only 23 decks total. I mean, like, when it comes to artifact decks out there, like, 23 get made, like, every minute on EDH Rec, most likely, I would assume. I don't know, that's just a thought in my head. It's probably more than that, even. That's just an estimation, but still, only 23 decks in total dedicated to this amazing strategy. Make sure you check it out and build your own amazing Evoke deck. Next up, when it comes to Spore counters, yeah, that is a really old school, really cool kind of effect that only has 31 decks dedicated to it in total, according to EDH Rec. Just 31! And you can do so many cool things with a Spore counter strategy and with certain commanders that you might not expect to be utilized with them. When it comes to Spore counters, this is a good example of one that shows it off. Utopia Mycon, a 0/2 fungus for a single green mana. Beginning of your upkeep, put a Spore counter on it, remove 3 counters from it, and all of a sudden you make a 1/1 sapling, and by sacrificing a sapling, you add 1 mana of any color. So, I mean, yeah, if you just had this in your deck, just regularly without any support for it, you just be like, okay, I get in play. Eventually, I'll get value off of it. Yay. But of course, there's way to hypercharge that value, and especially when we have a lot of these fungus-type creatures in play that keep building up their own Spore counters, and maybe some others as well, we can do some absolutely insane things. Now, when it comes to commanders to consider for this one sneaky one you might want to consider is actually Miracle Lord of Bones, a 7/5 god for 7 mana. As long as your life total is less than or equal to half your starting life total, it's got indestructible, so that's nice. More importantly, though, whenever another non-token creature control dies, you may exile it. If you do, create a token that's a copy of that card, except it's an enchantment, loses all their card types. Now, with all these fungus-type creatures, yeah, it's nice that they're creatures, but again, like Utopia Mycon, it's a 0/2. We're not exactly looking to go into combat with that, typically. So, when that actually dies, it can actually be a good thing for us, because as an enchantment, well, it's kind of hardier than it is as just a creature, and it kind of has like a second life with Miracle Lord of Bones. So being able to stick around as an enchantment that just keeps building up Spore counters on it and utilizing those Spore counters again to either make tokens or add mana or whatever they're going to be doing can be a very, very cool effect with this. And of course, with Miracle, we actually get an extra color compared to most of these kind of fungus type creatures. So we actually have white, which does give us access to some amazing things, like maybe some token doublers, maybe some proliferate effects. Speaking of which, another commander to consider for this Spore counter strategy, Xavier Sol Infested Captain, a 3/3 human fungus pirate, a fungus itself, for 3 mana in Sultai. Tap, move a counter for another permanent you control, populate, activate on a sorcery, or tap, sacrifice a creature, proliferate, activate on a sorcery. Most of the time, we are going to be proliferating with this one. Again, we've got plenty of ways to make a lot of those sapling tokens with these fungus cards, and all of a sudden, we're going to be like, oh, okay, sacrifice 1, proliferate, get even more fungus counters on them, and of course, maybe some untap effects can help us out that too. But of course, when it comes to, no matter what kind of strategy you pick, there obviously is support for either one of these when it comes to proliferate. Yeah, if we're Miracle, let's just say, Grateful Apparition. 1/1 Spirit with flying for 2 mana in white, deals combination to a player or planeswalker, proliferate. Repeat proliferate effects can be absolutely massive, and over the most recent years, we've gotten more and more support for proliferation, so utilize that in a great way to get even more Spore counters again. Typically, in old days, like it was like, okay, 1 Spore counter every single turn. That takes a long time to get there. Proliferate's gonna be like, oh, let's hypercharge that, and all of a sudden I'm making an absurd amount of Spore counters. On top of that, Winding Constrictor, Corpjack Menace, kind of things like that. This one is an amazing one. 2/3 Snake for 2 mana. If one or more counters are placed on artifact or creature, you control that many of those counters plus 1 are placed on it instead. On top of that, if you would get 1 or more counters, you get 1 or more. Cool, that's good for us. That being said, again, with this kind of a card specifically, again, for Spore counters, for counter decks, not just +1 counter builds, because some of those, other cards are like doubling those things up like Hardened Scales. This one's more so like, oh no, I don't care what it is. Yeah, let's just get an extra counter on those. So being able to double up those counters on your creatures, double those 4 counters is absolutely amazing. When it comes to, well, taking advantage of the saplings you're going to be making with your fungus, yeah, Slimefoot the Stowaway. Sapling you control dies, 1 damage each opponent, you gain 1 life. You can also pay mana to make sapling tokens. That's quite nice. But yes, of course, being able to just ping your opponents down with your sapling army that you're obnoxiously making a ton of because of all this proliferation, all these 4 counters, have fun. Speaking of having fun, Bright Cap Badger. Each fungus and sapling you control has tap for a green. At the beginning of your end step, you make a sapling. So this makes you even more saplings, and now it makes it so that every single one of those creatures that you're making now make you even more mana to go even more crazy. Also, when it comes to going crazy, spores, so we're valid. Beginning of your upkeep, put a spore counter on each fungus you control, every single one. So again, this is just the fungus of all fungi. It helps every single one of yours, and it's just basically an amazing, like, kind of repeat proliferate effect for you. Populating too, kind of at some point by making more and more tokens. That being said, Roaming Throne. Yeah, this is a great card in so many strategies out there. 4/4 Ward 2 enters the battle, features a creature type. Fungus is a chosen creature type to other types. Gross, it's a Fungus Throne Golem. Cool. If a triggered ability of another creature control of the chosen type triggers additional time, so now doubling that up every single time. Yeah, that can lead to a lot of spore counters. Again, right now, according to EDH Rec, only 31 decks in total are absolutely dedicated to spore counters. You can do some really cool things with them. And again, there's some potentially unexpected commanders that you might not expect would be amazing with this strategy. Make sure on the lookout for that. But yeah, check it out and build your own spore counter deck. Next up, a strategy that is so much more popular than our previous two, but not very popular at all, in an amazing strategy. Only 127 decks in total are dedicated to experience counters. Now, I'm not just saying like, okay, Minthara. No. There's a lot of Minthara decks. There's a lot of other decks like built around these experience counter commanders. But how about utilizing every single one of them? And actually, I did an episode on this a little while back around a certain commander I'll bring up here in a little bit, recommended by one of my amazing patrons, and it is amazing. I absolutely love that build. So when it comes to experience counters, again, there's a limited pool of these creatures, but now we've got ways to get them and to get even more experience counters to really take advantage of it. Let's talk about experience counters with this one. A 2/2 Elf Cleric for 4 mana in Orzhov. Ward X for X the number of experience counters you have, so the more experience counters you get, the more protected this is. Give your end step a permanent control left the battlefield this turn, you get an experience counter. That's going to be happening. On top of that, though, creature control get +1/+0 for each experience counter you have. Basically, again, all you need to do is get to one experience counter, and then the rest of the deck can kind of handle all that for you. I mean, obviously, getting more and more experience counters with more and more commanders, like, hey, Azlask can be your commander. It's got commander potential for this, obviously. It is the experience counter creator itself. 2/2 Eldrazi for 3 mana. Whenever another color's creature control dies, you get an experience counter. By paying Wooburg, creature control get +X/+X to turn X the number of experience counters you have. Signs and spawns you control gain indestructible annihilator 1 till end of turn. Yeah, a massive pump effect for your team, and also a way to get more experience counters, of course. A great commander to consider for this deck, especially if you want to kind of like lean into Eldrazi, lean into Signs and Spawns. That being said, you can go a little more general if you want, and one that kind of helps you get out all of these experience counters creatures. Joda the Unifier is a great option for that. 5/5 Human Wizard for 5 mana in Wooburg. Ledger creature control get +X/+X for X number of ledger creatures you control. Whenever you cast a legendary spell from your hand, exile card to the top of your library to exile a legendary non-land card lesser mana value. Cast that card without paying its mana cost, but the rest of your library in a random order. Basically, legendary cascade, essentially. So, by building our deck in the correct way and making it so that we have certain legends in our deck that, well, when we cast them, we know we're going to hit something that's got an experience counter creator, then we can actually get a lot of them into play and generate a ton of experience counters. I mean, there are exactly nine experience counter cards, and we can get them out quite easily with this kind of a strategy. Althari Sun's Glory is a good example of that, and one that can make us a good amount of experience counters throughout the game. 3/3 Flying Lifelink Haste. Attacks, you get experience counter, then create a 2/2 red rebel creature token that's tapped that attack for each experience counter you have. You can also bring it back out of your graveyard. That's nice. That being said, again, a great way to build up that army, a great way to build up our experience counters. Keep in mind, the more and more we have, the more deadly this becomes, of course. And of course, when it comes to that as well, we are getting a ton of support lately. I mean, Etheric Amplifier, here we go. Just a simple mana ruck, right? Not so. 3 mana tap for 1 mana of any color, pay 4 tap, choose 1, activate on sorcery, double the number of each kind of counter on target permanent. That's nice, but more importantly, double the number of each kind of counter you have. So, yeah, if we've got poison, we're not choosing this, but what we are choosing essentially again is experience counters, and being able to double that up. Yeah, we're going to be just going to an absurd amount of experience counters with something like this. Or how about Evolution Sage? Again, proliferation. We already went through a lot of proliferate effects on the last one, but essentially 3/2 Elf Druid for 3 mana, landers, battlefield control, proliferate. Yeah, being able to, again, not only utilize the experience counters that are being generated by those experience counter creatures, but also in other ways. Again, Etheric Amplifier, Proliferate effects, building up those experience counters to absurd amounts that we probably shouldn't be able to get to, and then taking advantage of all those different benefits that we get from our experience counters creatures. You can do a lot of spicy things with a deck built entirely around experience counters. And as of right now, again, there's only 127 decks in total dedicated entirely to that. And you might just think, okay, it's got to be Azlask as the commander for it if I'm building around that entirely. No, you've got other options and a lot of other great options. I think Joda is a great one. I'll have a lot of amazing other options too, of course. But yeah, you can really take advantage of some awesome and amazing plays around this unique deck. And the final off-the-wall hidden strategy that I'm going to talk about is, well, hidden itself with the hidden commander, the secret commander strategy. And of course, there's a lot of different secret commanders that you can have, but one of my personal favorites is Deep Glow Skate. Currently, according to EDH Rec, in total, there are only 8 decks in total built around Deep Glow Skate specifically for Esika. And Esika is a great example, we'll get to that here in a second, of a commander that can be a really good secret commander enabler. We'll talk about why here in a little bit. That being said, let's talk about this card first and why you might want to build an entire deck around it itself. A 3/3 fish for 5 mana. If that's all it did, don't build around it. That being said, it says when it enters the battlefield, double the number of each kind of counters on any number of target permanents. So being able to double up, that is an incredibly, well, unique effect on every single one of your permanents. So being able to just double that up, that's like hyper proliferation. Absolutely. So having an entire deck built around this is absolutely amazing. And yes, there are other ones too, like one that I don't play anymore, unfortunately, because it's just a bit too good and too obnoxious and too crazy. But yeah, Ink Treader Nephilim could be another hidden commander, another secret commander for you. 48 track, only 16 decks in total for Ink Treader Esika, and maybe it should stay that way, though I'm letting you know right now, and I actually did do a deck around this one, so maybe check that out. But yeah, ask your playgroup first if they're okay with it, because it is crazy. And basically, if you get this out, you win with that. You just win. There is no stopping you. 3/3 Nephilim for 4 mana and everything but black. Whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery spell, if it's the only target for that spell, copy that for each other creature that spell could target. Each copy targets every one of those creatures. Basically, again, you get this out. You simply cannot lose at that point. Essentially, your opponent's like, oh, okay, yeah, cool, Ink Treader Nephilim, whatever. And they're like, okay, I cast a spell for 1 mana, and I just drew 20 cards. Okay, I cast another spell for 2 mana, and I made 20 treasures. Okay, now I cast another spell, and I made 30 creatures for 1 mana. And all of a sudden, the board is absurd. You are drawing your entire deck. You've got all the mana you could ever need in treasures, and you just win the game. So again, ask your playgroup first before you play this one. That being said, let's talk more about the Deep Glow Skate option, because that's not nearly as overpowered and probably more accepted in most playgroups out there. So when it comes to this, again, Esika God of the Tree is a fantastic commander when it comes to secret commander decks. And unfortunately for Esika, not the front side, the back side. We're talking about the Prismatic Bridge, actually. So sorry, Esika, it's more like the Prismatic Bridge. Legendary enchantment for 5 mana and Wooburg. At the beginning of your upkeep, reveal cards. Say you top your library until you reveal a creature or planeswalker card. Put that card on the battlefield. The rest, the bottom of your library in a random order. Why this is so good for secret commander decks is, if we only have one creature in the entire deck, we can build the entire deck around that, knowing that our commander is going to be getting that for us. So basically, again, our commander is enabling our secret commander by getting it. And again, in the case of Ink Treader Nephilim, the game is literally just over when you get that in play, because you probably can't lose. Your opponent's like, okay, I'll try to stop you. Like, okay, I'll cast my other 1 mana spell that draws me 30 cards. And then all of a sudden, oh, you tried to take it out again? Okay. I've got like 80 of these spells in this deck. I'll cast another 1 mana spell to draw 30 cards. Yeah, you're going to find answers that you need. Okay, but when it comes to Deep Glow Skate, again, you get that into play, and maybe you already have Astral Cornucopia in play. And there's X charge counters on it. Tap, choose a color at 1 mana, or that color for each charge counter on it. That's absolutely amazing. Of course, at just 3 mana that you put into this in total, okay, taps for 1. Nice. But if you put 6 in, taps for more. Or again, if you get a counter on it and all of a sudden get Deep Glow in play, you double that. Then maybe you blink Deep Glow. Just maybe blink Deep Glow. And all of a sudden, you double that. Then you double it again, and then again, and then again. And then at a certain point, your Astral Cornucopia is tapping for like 40 mana. Your opponents are like, oh my gosh, what is happening? Everflowing Chalice, again, basically exact same thing, but for colorless. Multi-kicker 2, tap 3, charge counter on it. Fungal Reaches. You have lands that can help you do this too. Tap for a colors, pay 1, tap a storage counter on it, pay 1 root X storage counters from it at X mana combination of colors to your mana pool from red or green. There's a lot of lands that do this. Not a lot, but there's ones for each color essentially. And yes, this is basically a way to say, okay, I store up some counters on this. Again, Deep Glow comes into play again and again and again, doubling and doubling and doubling. And all of a sudden, I can pay a single mana for this land and just take off all those counters and be able to just add an absurd amount of mana that I stored up on a single land. Again, there's a lot of great blink effects. Cloud Shift, a simple 1 mana one, is basically a way to double up every single one of your counters. It's absolutely crazy. A card like Tel'Gelad Silas, I love when commander decks can utilize really weird, wonky, unplayed cards like this one. Artifact for 1, tap, put target permanent you own on the bottom of your library. It's an incredible card for this deck because, well, oh, you're trying to deal with my Deep Glow Skate? Okay, well, I've got blink effects, but you know what? Actually, you know what? I'll just put it on the bottom of my library. All of a sudden, it's there, and then also when the next upkeep hits, my commander says, oh, hey, top library reveal. Okay, Deep Glow Skate, because you're the only creature in the deck. Cool, back into play, get the ETB again. Iceberg. Have you ever seen this card? Probably not. It's a really old, janky card, enchantment for X blue blue. Comes to play with Ice counters on it. You can pay 3 to put Ice counter from it, or put on it, or pay 0 to move Ice counter from it to add a colorless mana. Basically just stores up colorless mana for you, and again, by doubling and doubling and doubling and doubling, this can become the biggest threat on the board, and it's a really janky, old, stupid enchantment, really! It's just like, oh my goodness, wow! But yeah, being able to double that up is absolutely crazy. Ominous Seas. I love this one. Draw a card, put a 4 shadow counter on it, and there's a lot of decks that can utilize that just by drawing a ton of cards, but like, we just need to draw basically 1 card, and all of a sudden we get that counter on it. And they're like, okay, double, 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 double. Great. All right. So many Krakens. Remove 8 4 shadow counters from it. Create 8. Put an 8/8 blue creature token into play. And you can easily make, I just misspoke right there with 8. But yeah, you can easily make 8 of those. I've made many more with this kind of a deck. Magistrate Scepter, if you really just want to win the game, you're like, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm done just blinking this over and over again. I just win the game. Pay 3 for this artifact. Pay 4, tap a charge counter on it. You just need 1 on it, and all of a sudden you're good to go. Tap, move 3 card counters from it. Take an extra after this one. Again, you just get it into play. Get that counter on it. You double. All of a sudden you can extra turn if you want to right then and there, or you just keep doubling, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, yeah. Got like 20 counters on this thing. Yeah, I guess I can start taking some extra turns with it. You're gonna win. Gemstone Array, basically a slightly better version of that Iceberg. Pay 2 for a charge counter on it, move a charge counter from it, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Again, just stores up an absurd amount of mana, an amazing mana bank, basically just free mana for the rest of the game for you. Your opponents will not win once you're set up properly. Paradox Zone, make massive things. I mean, absurdly massive things. There's Battlefield, a growth counter on it. You give your end step, double the number of growth counters on it, and create a 0/0, and it gets that many counters, basically. So yes, all of a sudden, again, this can just double up on its own and make itself, well, absolutely crazy, but you're already going to hypercharge that by doubling it even more. Deep Glow Skate, so all of a sudden you're just, on my end step, making a one-shot KO creature. Literally, so quickly your opponent's heads will spin. And the next time, it's going to be twice as big as that, if not even more. Prism Array, ever heard of this one? No, it's janky, it's stupid, it's amazing. I love it, it's stupid amazing. Enters the battlefield, a crystal counter on it for each color of mana spent to cast it. Remove a crystal counter from it, tap target creature, and pay Wooburg Scry 3. Yes, it's so cool in this deck because, again, these really weird, wonky, janky cards can become the best things on the board with Deep Glow Escape because you're like, oh, okay, cool, yeah, it's got some counters on it. Oh, now it's got 50 counters on it? Okay, I can tap down creatures whenever I want, and my opponents can do nothing about it. Literally nothing about it. Mind Unbound, be careful with this one. But yeah, beginning of your upkeep, put a lore counter on it, then draw a card for each lore counter on it. Again, at a certain point, you're going to be like, I don't think I need any more than 20 counters on this because I'm going to lose the game if I draw too many cards. But yeah, being able to double this up can get you there quite quickly. Again, when it comes to hitting commanders, you can just let your mind go anywhere with these kinds of decks. They can be so unique and so specific because, again, if you've got a creature that you absolutely love that it has like an amazing, unique ability and you want to build an entire deck around it, do it. It is so unique. It is so, so, so incredible when you get it to work. It's absolutely so much fun when the rest of the table just sees, wait, what is this deck doing? We're all playing like just normal decks that, like, okay, yeah, I've got Jetmir. You know what Jetmir does. You got this. You know what this does. And this person's playing around Deep Glow Skate with Prism Array. And it's just dominating the board. So yes, make sure that you, check out, the episode on this one, but also consider for yourself what kinds of creatures out there, what kinds of secret commanders you want to build around because it is an amazing off-the-wall strategy that I would highly recommend. And with that, this episode is coming to a close, so it's my turn to hear from you. In the comments below, let me know your thoughts are on this episode. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.